Welcome to the Italian Wine Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Italy International Academy, announcing the 24th of our Italian Wine Ambassador courses to be held in London, Austria, and Hong Kong from the 27th to the 29th of July. Are you up for the challenge of this demanding course? Do you want to be the next Italian Wine Ambassador? Learn more and apply now at vinitalyinternational.com.
Italian Wine Podcast, a Wine2Wine Business Forum 2021 media partner, is proud to present a series of sessions highlighting the key themes and ideas from the two-day event held on October the 18th and 19th, 2021. This hybrid edition of the Business Forum was jam-packed with the most informed speakers discussing some of the hottest topics in the wine industry today. For more information, please visit wine2wine.net and tune in every Thursday at 2 p.m. Central European Time for more episodes recorded during this latest edition of Wine2Wine Business Forum.
Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to our session on rethinking and reshaping wine education for the next 20 years. So today, I'm here with Jimmy Smith from the West London Wine School and some other wine schools. So we're here to have a conversation, just really think about what's been happening over the last while and the impact that it is likely to have on wine education. Before we get started, we're going to introduce ourselves. So let's start with Jimmy.
Hello, everybody, wherever you may be. It's a delight to be here. And thank you so much for the introduction, Mary. As mentioned, I am Jimmy Smith. So I am the owner of two wine schools here in the United Kingdom. One is West London Wine School, which is the largest independent WSET provider in the UK. South London Wine School. I also have a wine bar called Streatham Wine House. And then the last business is an online educational portal, which is called Wine with Jimmy. So I do basically wine buying and wine education. That's my speciality here in the UK.
Thank you. And my name is Mary Gorman-McAdams. I'm a Master of Wine, and despite my accent, I live in New York City, and I've been living here for almost 20 years. I am director at International Wine Centre in Manhattan, and International Wine Centre actually brought WSET to the United States over 30 years ago, and was the first WSET school in the Americas. I'm also a wine business strategist, but I've been teaching and talking about wine and teaching WSET since 2002 when I first moved to the United States. So it is absolutely my pleasure to be here with Jimmy to talk about wine education and how it might reshape and rethink itself over the next 20 years. So basically, sort of the next sort of half an hour, we're basically going to try. We don't have a crystal ball, but to discuss and explore the disruptive forces, including a pandemic, but also sort of technological, social, economic, and cultural forces that are sort of forcing us or making us rethink wine education. Maybe just a little bit of tweaking, more reshaping, or maybe completely inventing it as we develop wine education in terms of content, format, and delivery over the next 20 years. So we don't necessarily have all the answers, but I think this session will be useful in terms of discussing and having, insights from two very different perspectives with their sort of fingers in the wine education pie going back over 20 years.
I think, Mo, it's been called a special relationship in the past, isn't it? The US and the UK.
Absolutely. We'll continue with that nice little pond in between. But I think, two enormously important markets for wine and wine education. And I hope that during the session that you'll you get some interesting insights as to the impact of these forces, also the different political, business, regulatory environments and social forces that are helping shape wine education in terms of how we reach people, how we extend that reach, and how we deliver for the future. So let me see. So what are we going to talk about? Okay, so next slide. Actually, we do have 2 more slides. If we could, yeah, we can keep going, please. Yeah, okay. So these are some discussion points that we are hoping to get through. I think it's important to start with where we were and sort of have a little look back at the sort of traditional wine education models before 2020, when there were major disruptions around the world. So look at sort of how COVID then impacted what we do. And I think throughout that entire time, we were also faced with a lot of social, cultural, and political unrest around the world, which feeds into everything we do. And obviously, technology feeds hugely into how we have managed throughout COVID. And with that in mind, we are going to chat about how we come out of this, because there is no going back to the old past, but how we create and how we evolve for the next sort of 20 plus years. What do you think, Jimmy? That's a good agenda to start with.
That sounds absolutely wonderful. Yeah, really, really excited to get stuck into this. So, yeah.
Super. Okay. Well, I think we can close out the PowerPoint so that hopefully everybody can see us more clearly as we sort of dive into our conversation. So, Jimmy, I thought we'd start with you, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about sort of the past and how sort of the education models that you work with sort of pre-2020. And how then that sort of, I guess, came unstuck a little bit as we started in sort of March 2020 with COVID.
Yes, well, interestingly for us, we, of course, being 2 wine schools, we have quite a big reach across the United Kingdom. So it's going to be an interesting discussion in terms of how the US versus the UK it's affected it. But for us, of course, just like everybody else, we were stuck in our tracks and we could not move as soon as the COVID pandemic was unleashed upon us. And this was back at early 2020. Now, before that, we, as a wine educational model, we were not online. So we were purely classroom based. We would also tend to have quite a few people in our classrooms as well, and really preying upon the social side of wine education. And the same with our professional courses as well. So we would have classroom-based education, and it was a wonderful way of doing it. But however, we were thinking and toying with the idea of online education, but it was sped up, and no doubt we're going to talk about that approach as well. Now, pre-COVID, I have the West London Wine School and South London Wine School. Post-COVID, we have the online formats of both of those, and we also have my Wine with Jimmy online portal as well, which has been a huge thing to move forward. But everything got brought forward quicker. We had to learn a lot quicker. We had to really react, because when COVID came into play in March, everything stopped. And Mary, you'll know this as well. So all the financials stopped, everything stopped. But we had customers, and these are both professional and also consumers, who were just crying out for something. They wanted to do something in those early lockdowns. So we quickly moved at that point to put online education into play. But it was all absolutely new to us. So we're going to talk a little bit, Mary, I think later about the challenges of online platforms, but how we've had to adapt. So I'll leave that for now. But we were largely classroom based. We were very much, mainly sort of local schools, I suppose. If you look at a lot of wine schools across the United Kingdom, they are very much based in certain urban centres. Really, we were looking around our locality, and that, of course, has changed dramatically with the online approach.
Yeah, I mean, I would totally echo, Jimmy, what you're saying. And I think we had a few additional wrinkles here in New York. So the US is a very large wine market. So the rolling out of wine education tends to be in person and local. So in regarding WSET, you have schools in many different states. A little wrinkle, and each state has its own set of rules and regulations. New York is sadly unusual in that wine schools are regulated by the New York Board of Education. So that means that everything we do has to be approved. So on top of any other sort of like WSET environment you're working in, there's also New York State. On that fateful day, second week in March, when we were closed down because of pandemic, as you're saying, it's not like you have no customers in your store. We had 8 level 2 courses in progress already started, and 2 level 3s, and we had for WSET, and we were also in the middle of diploma. So it's all about, oh my goodness, are we really shutting for 2 weeks, or what's happening, and how do we manage our current student body, who, as you said, are just in the middle of their courses. So people are scattered, and that created another wrinkle. At that stage, everybody here in the US was the word of COVID pivot, adapting to Zoom, and as you say, we didn't have an online offering. Also, we would have had been approved by New York State to offer the same classes in an online environment as well. So, like you, we had to we had to scramble. How do we continue to support our students and even to pivot to Zoom for remaining classes? That created another challenge, but we got there. And I think one thing that COVID has shown us is the resilience and the creativity and how quickly we can adapt and evolve and embrace a lot of technology tools. Because I think without it, if you think back 20 years ago, if this happened, it would have been quite impossible.
Mm.
So, Jimmy, I'd love to sort of then talk through, pivoting to online. Then there's always the sticky question of wine.
Well, Mary, before we do, can I just ask a quick question? Did you find then, because this is intriguing for me, because of course you have different politics around wine in the US, as you mentioned. Did you find that the New York the governing body, were they flexible in terms of you pivoting to?
Yes, they were flexible, but they were slow. So it took, so that was sort of the second week in March when we closed. There was another month before we had received approval for every single course that we wanted to. So say level 1 wine, level 1 spirits, level 2 wine, just to kind of process that paperwork of being approved temporarily to continue these classes over Zoom. And that was separate to our then embracing the online platform and offer online courses, which similarly had to go through not just the can we do it, but creating of another curriculum and submitting an approval. So it's a lengthy process, and I think even within the US, it's not really understood the implications of operating in a state where wine education is regulated by the state in terms of, we're a trade school basically, and it is good in the sense it's regulated to protect the student. But when you're already operating under a solid environment such as the WSET, it just puts an extra burden in terms of everything that you try to do.
I'm getting a headache just thinking about the administration of all of that. So, congratulations to get through it. It's great that you're on the other side.
Yes. So, I think I give enormous credit to our team. We're a small team in terms of the full-time team at the school. We're 5. We, you'd hear everybody talking about getting into baking and doing all these things during lockdown. We were working flat out just to convert and to pivot, and working remotely. So this brought in another challenge for us because, wine. So, our students, they want to taste wine during classes. So when we converted to Zoom, that was another challenge because, when COVID hit, people spread everywhere. So it's a very large country. And also, as a licensed school, we don't have a license to ship wine or to rebottle wine. So that took another couple of months to work out how do we deliver on the wine tasting part. And that really happened a few months later after we kind of did Zoom with theory. And people started coming back to the city and then started our own little mini bottling line at the school where students would come and pick up the bottles. And that worked tremendously. That was an enormous breakthrough to get over that hurdle.
I think, I'd like to echo that as well. It's first of all, you mentioned your team, and it's the same here. We've got a wonderful team that once again worked flat out. If we were working 60-hour weeks beforehand, we were working 70-hour weeks, and we were just putting in the extra time to make sure that the business would have an offering, would be able to do something. And our steps, we actually have a slightly different process as how we got into it, because the first thing we did, which was in the 1st of April, I remember that purely as if it was yesterday, because it was our first online tasting that we did with a South African winemaker, Peter Allen Finlayson. But what we did initially is, because we didn't have the little rebottling facility straight away, the same as you, Mary, that came a little bit later. We were actually sending out full bottles for consumer events, but not WSET at that point. So for our consumer-based events, which may be Meet the Winemaker or whatever it may be, we were actually working with our suppliers here in the UK that works with our schools as well as our wine bar, but to deliver those cases directly to the doorstep of the consumer. And that was actually our offering for about 3 months, from about March to June, or April to June, July. We offered full cases of wine, so six wines in a box, sent to the doorstep. But we would actually have to change our model of a tasting because we couldn't expect our consumers to drink 6 bottles of wine in a night. So some of them were like, "Yeah, that's fine, absolutely fine." But we have a responsibility in terms of consumption of alcohol. So we actually broke our tastings into 2 or 3. So it would Meet the Winemaker, but it would be over 2 Tuesday nights or 3 Tuesday nights, where you have 2 wines or 3 wines per evening, and linking it with people like Caravan, who would then, people will be able to taste those wines at home. So actually, our model began like that, and because that's been so successful, we've continued that model. But because that model's not always applicable to professional courses, we've adapted to the sample bottle market as well, which I think was first pioneered here in the UK by 67 Pall Mall, and we tied in with that as well. But we are now doing the sample bottle across all of our formats. It may be consumer, it may be professional, but yes, these little sample bottles, if you've got the right team behind you, the right equipment for rebottling, and the understanding of, time scales about how long they can keep, then it can be really successful. And it's been a fantastic, a discovery for us. And I want to put in a little sort of selfish point here, if I may, because and Mary, this recently about me, I'm a father and another one's on the way. It's quite nice to be at home a bit more rather than in a tasting environment continuously. So it's quite nice to do online tastings at home for me. Selfishly, it means I'm always here. So it's quite a nice process for it as well.
Yeah, I have to. I agree with that. That even though I'd never like to go back to the heart of the lockdown, but I think I'll never again get the same time to spend at home with my husband and now son, who's 18, just gone off to college. But I just want to add in a little bit to what you were saying about the samples. We were incredibly envious of you in the UK with the ease with which you could bottle. Again, sort of all of that is terribly regulated and by state here. And our students are from the tri-states, so not just New York in terms of where New York City is. So it's equally New Jersey, Connecticut, and we in the months we were researching how do we create and how we deliver on the little bottles. We talked to people who were saying, well, why don't you do what X is doing in California? Well, that's not possible because we're in New York. So we did talk to a number of New York State wineries. It would have been very expensive for WSET classes, but even if we had sort of just buried that, they could only then ship to our students who are in New York City or New York State. Yeah. So that was never going to work. And what we did then, we just basically bought all the wines as we ordinarily would. And our two people from our little tiny team basically in-house opened bottles, tested them, and poured. It was not done in a sort of a scientific environment. Yeah. It was the only environment we could do it in, and we also bottled samples for the instructors at the same time, and some sort of library samples that we would test. I have to say the quality integrity of the wines was phenomenal, because we were teaching with those wines. Students would pick up 4 weeks at a time, because we could not ship. And they came into the school, they picked up a little box, and then we would taste. And I was very often that fourth week teaching. And I have to say, the wines kept phenomenally well, and that saved us. That was just the fact students then could taste. We could resume our classes with tasting, which, as you know, Jimmy, tasting is the applied theory, and they're a critical part to a wine class, and particularly for our professional students who are, sort of tracking for their various credentials. Not being able to taste had been a big issue.
Yep. I'm conscious on time, so yeah. Shall we?
I just want to ask you one more question in terms of just in terms of what we've learned. Did you find that also, for yourself and also, instructors or educators that work with you, you have to rethink how you deliver your class via Zoom in terms of keeping the students engaged, making sure everybody keeps their video on. And I'm interested if you would like to share any kind of insights as to strategies that you might have developed in that sense.
Yeah, so first of all, the first thing I'd like to highlight is that there is more to life than Zoom. So I would urge anybody out there who is in wine education and who is thinking about adopting an online model to spend time heavily investing in the right platform for you, the correct platform that suits your needs. We don't actually use Zoom. We use something called Click Meeting, which has been exceptionally useful for us. And it's really just thinking about what you want to add in, what you want to create as a complete package. So it enables us to add in Google Earth videos, short clips and videos, of course, loads of linking. I know Zoom and other things will do this as well, but we wanted to use something else. So the right platform is very important. In terms of little things you have to do, you have to think remarkably outside the box, because it is a different environment. We can't deny that online is different. So with my educators and I, we would start the tastings, even if it's professional or consumer, we would start them 15 minutes early and finish them 15 minutes after as well. So in terms of having bookend the actual tasting, so you can invite people to join early and have a chat just like you would have in person when people start to arrive at the tasting. So they would turn up, they would start to talk. Maybe they've got some of the wines open. Certainly if it's a consumer event, not so much a professional event, but we love the fact that creates a social aspect, which we all know that we miss, or people really, that's their first thought about online is that they don't want to do online tasting because they're going to miss the social aspect of it. Wine is social. So if we can create something social about that, that's really what I really would aim for in our classes, both professional and consumer. And then really the other thing is about cameras and things like that. It's repetition in terms of urging people to. It's the same thing you have in class, really. You'll notice that some students are quieter, and you need to think outside the box in terms of breakaway sessions, group sessions that you could do within your platform to try and help them come out of their shell a bit more. So in terms of camera, we're quite flexible with cameras. We do allow people to switch them off if they don't want them on, because some people are a little bit wary about where they are, that, they don't want to broadcast their living room or whatever it may be. So we do let people have their cameras off, but we do always check in with them at certain points with little sessions. How about you, Mary? What do you do?
Are you enjoying this podcast? There is so much more high-quality wine content available from Mama Jumbo Shrimp. Check out our new wine study maps, our books on Italian wine, including Italian Wine Unplugged, The Jumbo Shrimp Guide to Italian Wine, Sangiovese Lambrusco and Other Stories, and much, much more on our website, mamajumboshrimp.com. Now back to the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you said is choosing the platform is really important, and also varying, what you're using, like accessing either little videos, or you mentioned sort of Google Earth. One thing that we found really critical, particularly, say for level 3 and definitely for level 4, was advanced homework. So we would, give the students work to do that they would have to submit in advance, and then that would be their part of the discussion. And at the beginning, there was a little, but then students really wanted it because it meant for more of a conversation and a discussion as you would have in class. And it also enabled, which I felt from early on, is get rid of the PowerPoint, because then you can have more of a direct discussion, engaging with the students. So to really be careful how you manage PowerPoint, that you're not presenting at students, that you try to create more of that interactive discussion environment that you would have in a classroom. But we learned as we went along, from the first class thing, you've got to change this, to little tweaks. But certainly we learned a lot, and in terms of how to better engage and keep students part of the discussion for 2.5 hours plus. So that they were really positive learning outcomes, and I think there's certain intimacy when you've got a small group that you're working with on Zoom as well, and I think there are things that we can look towards for the future as well. So
what's our last little point now?
So then in terms of, now we're all sort of coming out for one way or the other, and bringing students back into the classroom. We actually brought students back in last January. We decided we would offer, we were allowed to. So slowly, we normally would have 2 classrooms going, one with 28, 30 students and one with 20 students. So we just used one large classroom and maxed it out at 12. Everybody, 8 foot, had their own 8-foot table. Not a good revenue model, but just to see if people would come back, and they're coming back. So but it's it's a big change to dealing with teaching wearing masks, keeping your students engaged, and also being conscious as to what kind of things you can still do for them online in terms of either some theory sessions or homework sessions. How about you, Jimmy, as you're sort of coming back into world?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to learn to smile with your eyes, haven't you, these days? So it's definitely very interesting, because we did some polls about to our consumers and our professionals about would you like to come back into classroom if you could? And we did have an overwhelming response actually say that they would. and that ties in. Of course, people really love the social aspect of wine. But we also, as a business, have to think financially, and financially, with smaller class sizes, it's a changed business model. So for us, online is a really good model forward, but it's about communicating how online is very positive, because there is a negativity around it because it's not really the social side of it. So we're trying to promote that our consumer events could be, you could buy a couple of kits and you get friends round and share it, at an online tasting. And we also are trying to, one thing I really do want to mention is that you have at your fingertips, literally, you have at your fingertips a world of information. So often the education is at a higher level, I find, when it's being taught online, because you do have everything there. I'm not sure about you, Mary, but when I'm in class, I do like to go off piste quite a lot. And, I'll be moving around the classroom and sometimes I might not cover 100% of what I should be doing, but, it could be like very, very good for the student. But online, it's absolutely there. And I have reminders, and there's loads of things that really help. Plus, one thing I've been doing a lot more recently is bringing in winemakers or very important wine professionals, journalists, or whoever it may be, but mainly winemakers for my Wine Scholar Guild courses, for example, because in the past, they're not available. A winemaker visits New York City for 3 days and they are packed to the rafters. They are doing breakfast, lunch and dinner, and you trying to get them to your wine school is often a bit more of a challenge than it needs to be. But online, they can't hide from us anymore. They will be at home. They may be doing whatever they have to be doing, but they can spare an hour or half an hour. And I've been bringing in a lot of winemakers, which for me has been really enriching the experience for the student and the consumer. So, for example, on my Alto Adige part of my Wine Scholar Guild, we had the representatives of Cantina Bolzano there, and they sampled some wines for us, and we had a wonderful part presentation that really enriched the experience for the students. So, I would really, I see myself as a bit of a flag flyer, a bit of an ambassador for online, because I think I don't want to lose in person, because in person is wonderful, but online can be really exceptional if we think about it in a clever way.
I totally agree, and I think the last year has shown us how also online can level the playing field for people. I'm heavily involved in the education side with the Institute of Masters of Wine as well, and obviously, while it's essentially a self-study program, students have to do a week of seminars each year in a certain place. And, what you do there is always limited by, who the professions you have access to, as well as your MW sort of educator body. And this year, it was tremendous for students because every week there were, multiple educational webinars with winemakers, and not just winemakers, but every sort of facet of the viticultural, technical, winemaking side of the industry. And as we are going back into next year, resuming the in-person, we are maintaining a lot of that online, because the depth and breadth and wealth of not just information, but exchange that was facilitated through online various sort of, we tend to use the word Zoom, but various platforms, and that's something that basically I think has been a real awakening during COVID, that we can offer our students access, conversation time with people from winemakers, wine people from around the world, just at the click of a button. So that's something I think we need to continue to integrate into our programs, really to add those levels of depth and interest. And it's you can work around the wines. You don't necessarily have to have wine all the time, but a lot of the wines are available in various markets. But it's something that we're going to maintain as well.
I think you're exactly right. If you look, it's little bit annoying to say this, but the world, there's convenience in the world, and we need to think as wine educators, we need to fit into being convenient, because it's not always easy for someone to drive for 2 hours to come to a specialist tasting in your wine school or wherever it may be. But if you can bring in the convenient factor of bringing a winemaker, he or she, to their door, to their screen, and then you're able to organise the samples professionally, securely, I think that is a huge benefit. And you've got to think about people that are very worried about the pandemic still, and they may be shielding their loved ones or their family, or they may be having a family like me, and time might be a little bit less available. These online tastings, certainly for my education, has been wonderful. I've been able to access a huge wealth of online tastings, which has been absolutely fantastic. And it's done professionally and well. Then I think it really should be here to stay, because I'm very excited about what we can keep offering in the future. And you never know, Mary, we might do a sort of a cross-Atlantic tasting or something in the future.
Absolutely, and I think also, particularly when on the freshman side of students, go to more advanced levels, it's really important that they understand different wine business environments, and the UK and the US being two at the top of the sort of food chain in terms of market size and dynamic. I think it would be really interesting to do some exchanges. I want to go back to a point you made, Jimmy, about sort of dispelling any negative perceptions that people have about online study, and apart from these sort of additional fleshing out and sort of meet the winemaker types of online learning, we also have focused a lot more on the WSET online platform, where we would work with the students as well, so complement with some Zoom sessions or ways to create community and help them create community when they're learning, because there is a perception that it's dry, that you're interacting with the machine. But I think for anyone out there who's not as familiar with the platform now that the WSET uses for online, it's very rich, and I got involved in moderating a number of the courses, and I felt in some cases I got to know my students even better than I would in a class, because I would offer weekly Zoom sessions, and we would do some sort of tasting and also discuss various assignments they had done to more like tutorial type of things. So I kind of felt that sort of made it kind of like a little bit of a hybrid, where you were giving them a weekly let's sort of meet together on Zoom. And what I found is that they were independently, even in the heart of lockdown, having their own little tasting sessions and theory sessions. So the tools are there online. I think we absolutely need, I think, the personal interaction, but there's a lot of richness and depth that can be added by integrating online tools, I think, into your education design.
Yeah, and obviously many people around the world listening to this absolutely echo that. And as an educator, we have to think about the social side of it, because that is the main loss for people online. So integrating that into everything we've mentioned about how to make the sessions more exciting. I don't know how about you, Mary, but I have to be on my A game more online, I think, than in person.
Yeah. There's nowhere to hide.
You've got to be more buzzing, haven't you? And you've got to make it more enriching. And that I find is very important, because of what could be the negativity around online education. But yeah, if the school, when we actually offer WSET online as if it were in class. So we'll just offer sessions. We go through the full sessions. We don't actually use the platform, but I have heard very positive things about it. And we really wanted to enable to our students that, you would get a very similar experience online than you would in person. That was what we were aiming for. But what we found is that the level of the education they get, we think is just gone through the roof. We think it's wonderful. So hopefully people around the world that are listening to this can be maybe their mind is set at ease with online education, because I think it is it's quite wonderful.
But I think going forward, it's really, we have to think more about, or maybe there's a complacency in the past, that we were there, therefore they came. And I think the world has been sort of shaken up quite fundamentally. And I think, as we go forward, we really have to be more thoughtful about our reach and the various kind of formats that we develop in order to continue to reach and engage with an increasingly diverse community of customers for wine education, be they professionals or be they enthusiasts who will remain enthusiasts, or who want to maybe change their sort of career into wine as well. And I think by having these different models, and certainly from our perspective, I wouldn't say we know, but we've got a little more insight into the mindset of an online student. Because as we kind of came out of COVID, during COVID there was nothing else. It was online or nothing. And as we're coming out of COVID, we're beginning to sort of understand that there are certain students for whom online will always be their preferred format. Circumstances is sometimes the case, but other times that's just how I like to learn, and I don't want to be in a classroom bothered by somebody sort of on my case all the time. So I think it's helped us really try to understand how you support the very different kinds of students, and I think one other thing that has been really important throughout the whole COVID, it was obviously always there, is a lot of the social unrest as well, and I think the realization that as wine educators we need to reach to a broader and more diverse community of potential students who may not necessarily have considered that wine could be part of their career or even lifestyle. And I think that's something that is interesting, particularly as we sort of come out of COVID, to extend outreach to more diverse environments, schools, to engage with more different people.
Yeah, for sure. Great.
So let us see. I'm just conscious of our time, and we have got some questions. Okay, more sort of comments. One social, yes, agree with that. Okay. We have a question here. During the lockdown, people love receiving bottles and whoever. Do we feel the appetite for these will remain amongst consumers and the trade now that so many live tasting venues? Yeah, you see the question. I mean, I don't think we have. I certainly don't have any stats, and I certainly see the person who posed the question point of view that. Yeah, I mean, I think during COVID, that was all we did. We lived for these online tastings day in, day out. I think going forward, we want to consume. We want to go back to live tastings, meet people in person. But I think they can cohabit. That there's still occasions when it's nice to think, well, I've got my little bottles here, and I can tune in from home, because I can go to that extra tasting that I may not be able to physically go to because I'm committed to 3 other things, or I'm teaching in 2 hours. So
I agree. I think just echoing points that I made earlier, but for me, the sample kit tastings, the virtual tastings, are here to stay, because the school that offers them they have more innovation and creativity behind them now. They have possibilities of making more interesting tastings, for example, I've got a tasting coming up with, you mentioned Finger Lakes. I've got a few New York Finger Lake winemakers doing a tasting, which I would never be able to do before, because they wouldn't all 3 of them be in London at the same time. So I think we're going to keep online tastings. We're going to keep our professional courses, because we definitely have a call for them. We have seen the numbers decrease a little bit when we have reopened, but consumer events, virtual tastings are here to stay, because it gives us another tool in our toolkit, another gun in our armory, in terms of really being able to offer a broader spectrum. So I think for us, they're here to stay for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that, as you say, the finger lakes tasting. I think we're going through a time, now there's be a bit of sort of, as we sort of go back into in person, there will be this extra period of uncertainty. But I think when the dust settles, the more diverse offerings I think that you can offer, because there is no one, single type of wine student, and if you can offer a lot of different, I think wine education is a very competitive environment these days. Wine is a very competitive environment, and certainly wine education has become increasingly competitive. And I think the richer the offering you have, it really enables you to offer something different to your students, and also to remain relevant and be on top of your game.
And I think travel as well. I mean, travel is getting easier, but it's still tough for key speakers and winemakers, etc., to move around the world. So it's in the short term, that means that we're definitely going to have more online events. Great.
Okay, let me just check if there are more questions. We have one more minute before I guess we'll be. Question from Nicole about figuring out. I think we've answered that. How to make. I think if the topic is interesting, people will still want to access you, talk to you, meet you, taste your wines. And the one thing that we were always short on is time. And I really think having this combination of in-person education, complemented by ongoing online, I think that makes for a much happier place. Then we won't all be dead from traveling, that we can kind of strive to a balance and yet kind of have it all in a way.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned, Mary, about 15 minutes ago, but getting into the mind of an online student, it's a quite difficult task to do, but if we can try and figure out, I think an online student will want that diversity. They will come to an in-person because that's the kind of person they are. Most of them will, but time is very precious, and they will do online as well. It's the same as me. I go to both now, and I'm hopefully learning a lot more from it. I think it's a great future ahead for it.
I think so, and I think we're going to have more and more sophisticated tools for doing this. We'll always have to get around the physicality of bottling wine into little bottles and moving it until we can sort of, I guess, virtually transport it. But I think as you mentioned, with 6-7 Pall Mall and various wineries here, even though we do have more regulatory environments, I think people have done tremendous jobs in sort of stepping up to the plate and enabling the small sample bottling.
Yeah, I echo that. We actually do hire another company now to do most of our professional bottling. So, we initially started how you did, Mary, as well, bottling your own kits. But if you've got some volume, then please do also research companies that specifically do this now, and they would really help you in terms of what you can offer.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so thank you everybody for tuning in. I think we're at the top of the hour. Jimmy, it's been a real pleasure chatting with you, because this is the first time that we've actually met and had such a good discussion. So I think we should do things together in the future. But thank you everybody, and for your comments and questions. And for those of you who are in situ in Verona, I'm jealous. Enjoy. Maybe next year, and hope to see a lot of you either virtually or in person over the next few months.
The same from me. Thank you, everybody who has joined us for this session. Mary, delight to meet you, and thank you for, of course, joining at such an early time in the morning in New York. So
the sun is coming up now behind me.
I'm putting in a big shift. But yes, thank you so much. And if anybody does make their way across to London, please come and see us. I've got Wine School, the wine bar, so you can come for a class, glass, or bottle. So wonderful to meet you all, and yes, hopefully see you either online or in person very soon. So thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Italian Wine Podcast, brought to you by Wine2Wine Academy. home of the gold standard of Italian wine education. Do you want to be the next ambassador? Apply online at vinitalyinternational.com for courses in London, Austria, and Hong Kong, the 27th to the 29th of July. Remember to subscribe and like Italian Wine Podcast and catch us on SoundCloud, Spotify, and wherever you get your pods. You can also find our entire back catalog of episodes at ItalianWinePodcast.com.
Hi guys, I'm Joy Livingston and I am the producer of the Italian Wine Podcast. Thank you for listening. We are the only wine podcast that has been doing a daily show since the pandemic began. This is a labor of love and we are committed to bringing you free content every day. Of course, this takes time and effort, not to mention the cost of equipment, production, and editing. We would be grateful for your donations, suggestions, requests, and ideas. For more information on how to get in touch, go to ItalianWinePodcast.com.